Well, welcome everybody. There's some new faces, and just to give a little context for what this joining is all about, at the heart of it is just us coming together and to drop into a deeper awareness of our own connection with Source, with each other. It's really about where two or more are gathered, there I am. And I feel so blessed that everybody wants to come here on Saturday, because it's such a gift to be able to just stop everything and just be together and really allow the Spirit that brought us here to show us what this is for today, because I don't have any idea. I just wait and listen and follow whatever seems to stream through. So it's not really a study group, ACIM study group. It's more of a, I guess we've heard the word satsang, which is really, to me, it's not about one person sitting in front of a room and expounding. It's really about our hearts coming together and really feeling that, that deeper connection that sometimes is not really in our awareness, right? It's busied up with other things in life, perhaps. So I feel really blessed, and hopefully that this is a blessing for all of us that come together to feel that love of God. And if you don't like or resonate with the Word of God, just to resonate with the word of love. It's the same thing to me. And that's what we are, right? That's truly, truly, truly what we are. And there's been this forgetting. And so we're here to remember. So what I'd like to do is just start with this beautiful song that somebody posted on my Facebook. It's just really lovely. It's called Temple of Fire. And sometimes on this journey you can feel like the fire is with you, and sometimes the fire is against you. So this morning the fire will be with us. Okay? So if you just close your eyes and just take in the words and just allow yourself to be here fully.
Free of sadness, yesterday is gone, its tale is torn. Today new seeds are growing. The time has come to turn your heart into a temple of fire. Your presence is gold, hidden in dark, to reveal its splendor, burn in the fire of love. Leave each day behind like flowing water, free of sadness. Yesterday is gone, its tale is told. Today new seeds are growing. The time has come to turn your heart into a temple of fire. Your presence is gold, hidden in dark, to reveal its splendor, burn the fire of love. The time has come to turn your heart into temple of fire.
So it feels like there's a, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it feels like there's a quickening happening in our world, in our minds, in our hearts. It's like things are getting heated up, right? And the outpicturing of that is seemingly the world events and what's happening. And it looks like there's like this massive amount of uncertainty, massive amount of loss of control, massive amount of being delegated to you what you need to be doing and not doing, from which country you can fly to which stores you can go into. This is very, very new to all of us, right? And as you start to look at things more and more symbolically, which is what I do, I look at everything symbolically. And everything here is to serve our awakening. Every single thing. So when Jesus says in the Course in Miracles that all things work together for good and there are no exceptions, except for in the ego's judgment, then that's, to me, comforting. Because no matter what's happening, unless you're playing on the battlefield with those images and interpreting them as things against you, then you'll feel like you're trapped and that you're a victim, right? And the Course in Miracles literally takes us out of and above the battlefield of thought. Like, thoughts are images I have made. So how can we look upon the world right now and really have the experience that it's working together for good, for our awakening? And what I see, and I've shared this in these meetings before briefly, is that everything is being exposed. Like the deep corners and recesses of the tiny mad idea that are usually hidden are now right in front of us. Because most of us have tremendous control issues. Right? Most of us are under conscious control, not Christ control. And that's very, very stressful, to be under conscious control. To work miracles were to allow those miracles to be given to us by the Spirit. Not thinking we're going to go out and perform miracles, but we just have to be cleaned out enough to be able to be the presence, really, is all it is. To me, it's just being open and being the presence of this love and this peace that can answer a call for love. And in the end, it's all your call for love, because it's just strengthening that love and that peace within us. It's not really about helping others. It never is. So it's love or a call for love. And so as we drop deeper and deeper into the practice of forgiveness, then it becomes natural. It's a natural state. It's not something that you have to work at. But in the beginning stages, it feels like a lot of work to practice forgiveness, because you're allowing the self-concept to be dissolved. And so these symbols of the world are just simply showing, it's almost like the totality of the chaos of the ego. And before, I think we maybe thought that some of it made sense, just a little bit of it. But now it's like, really none of it makes sense. And you can't even look outward to find any kind of sense, really, where it seemed like you used to kind of be able to do that. Now it's like, no, none of it makes sense. Which Jesus has been telling us in the Course in Miracles is the absolute truth. That it's insanity to look without and try to find out who you are, or try to find some sort of comfort. So it feels like this beautiful call, and especially like in the beginning when it was the, what was it called? The shutdown, the lockdown. And shelter in place. It was almost like this massive invitation to be still and to start to go within, right? Many interpretations were different than that. But if you're looking for the loving interpretation of the Spirit, if you're really looking for the Holy Spirit to show you what things mean instead of the old tapes of fear and struggle, it was really saying, it's time to step within. And, I've met with so many people that say they want to do silent retreats, and here was the opportunity to just, if the conditions were right for you. Of course, that's not the way it is for everybody. But then, you really start to see how much you don't want to accept that everything works for your own good. That everything is in favor. It's pronoia instead of paranoia. It's for you. It's not against you. And while we think that things are against us, that's just the opportunity we have to start to see, well, okay, if what this guy Jesus is telling us is the truth, then wouldn't I want to believe what he's telling me instead of what my old tapes or my programming is telling me? Because the old tapes and the programming are the things that we are literally going in and dissolving with this power of forgiveness. And that's why Jesus says that forgiveness is the key to the happiness, because without that, we will, like there's a line in there, we will still be blind. It doesn't matter how many good deeds you do. It doesn't matter how many medicine journeys you do. It doesn't matter how much altruistic things you're about. If you don't do the mind training and you don't practice every day with that forgiveness, you will still be looping in time for a very, very seeming long time. So it's worthy of our mind energy if we feel this call in our heart, if we feel this deep call in our heart, just for happiness, okay? Just for true peace. Like, can I get through the day without worrying? Can I get through the day without this stress? And maybe you have these lives that really there's nothing pressing on you, but you still don't feel content, like a real deep contentment. If that deep contentment isn't there, it just simply means, in a reinterpretation of the Spirit, there's just things that you still believe in. There's things that you believe in that are keeping you from that remembering. And I feel like all we're doing is remembering. We're just remembering. Every time we forgive something starts to happen in our heart. And it's the most amazing thing. You start to feel lighter. You start to feel brighter. You start to feel more peaceful. And I used to believe that, I wanted to live in some type of mystical state at all times. I wanted to be in some altered reality that really didn't have much to do with any of this, right? And that was my goal. And it was a distortion. It was a sincere distortion because I had had experiences that were very beautiful and profound. But, Jesus, for some reason, I don't understand why, wants our lips, wants our minds, wants our hearts, wants us to be with each other. You can't go home without your brother. I did try. I tried to meditate my way and not really come into union with my brothers and sisters. I really, really didn't want to do that. I thought they were a distraction, an illusion. So there was some distortion going on in the early years with me. And now it's like the more that you just do what the Course says, which is a full and complete pathway to awakening, but it definitely seems to include our brother and our sisters in a very big way. You can't go home without your brother. What does that mean? Well, I think what it means is that as you are with your brother, you're always seeing what you truly believe. It is actually a fast track to seeing the judgment in the mind and the conditioning of right and wrong and all the things that keep us in this place of duality and feeling lonely. It really, that's what it is. And so as we accept the means that are given, which is each other, in so many instances, it is with each other. It's like, okay, I really see my attack thoughts, and my attack thoughts seem to want to go over onto whatever situation in the world or person I'm with or people that I'm with or governments or whatever. If we're not using those situations for our healing, then we really are sharing our mind's energy with this addiction to fear, with this addiction to what we aren't, right? And so there has to be a deep desire within for, and just call it what you will, but really a deep sense of happiness, contentment. And Jesus promises that over and over in the Course of Miracles, and any non-dual or authentic spiritual tradition will take you to that place of peace and wonderment and no stress whatsoever, no need to even try to figure anything out. In fact, I tried to figure something out this week, and it really landed me. I haven't felt like that in a long time. I tried to figure something out. It was so strange to me that I actually didn't know what it was at first. And then I was like, I had to just drop and go into meditation. I was like, oh, okay, that was it. I was trying to figure something out, The only thing we need to figure out is how to focus our full attention on forgiveness and on the kingdom of heaven. Because if you focus solely on that, and that is what resurrection, what Jesus says the resurrection of the mind is the single desire for the Son to the Father. It's so beautiful and it's so simple. And I think there's a lesson that says that the only relationship is the relationship that we have with God. That's the only relationship. And so if we use each other as something that helps us come deeper into that relationship with that essence of who we are, then that's the proper use of relationships. That's holy relationship. That doesn't mean it's always sweet and nice and charming. It means it can be a lot of work, really. And the ones that have been the most work for me have been truly my saviors. And I used to think that was, when I would read the Course and I would hear that your brother is your savior, I used to really, I couldn't, the mind can't grasp what the mind hasn't experienced. But now I can certainly say that I am so thankful, because it's always, that tiny mad idea of projection is being projected out because it's so painful to hold it seemingly within. It's still within, but we put it over there, right? We put it over onto our brothers and sisters or our governments, whatever. So now it's this opportunity, and I think this is what the quickening is. It's time to stop doing that. It's time to get really serious. If you want to be happy, it's the only way you're going to be happy. There actually is no other way. So that's pretty direct, and that's what I love about the Course, is it's very, very direct. And the ego really doesn't care for directness. It likes to be kind of mushy and, oh yeah, everything's fine and it's all just an illusion, and let's all get along and put on our spiritual masks and, sing Kumbaya around the fire and feel good for a second. And that does feel good for a second, it does. But it's not really the real deal. And there's a deep desire, I can feel it. It's like there's a line in the Course that talks about that the world is weary now. Well, the world is within us, and so there's a weariness. If there's a weariness within you, it's like, then come to the lake that will really nourish you, that will come to the stream that will carry you, come to the place that has all of the answers. It has all of the answers. My gosh, it's so inspiring. So there's work to be done in the beginning. There's work to be done, with this authentic spiritual practice. I always say I'm not a teacher, I'm not a public speaker. I've always shied away from being in front of the room. I haven't liked it. And so it's like, but there's this purification that happens, and then you don't really have a choice about where your gifts will be given, where the Spirit's gifts will be given. You don't have a choice anymore. It'll start showing up. But during that purification phase, it's very important to have that practice. I'm a practitioner of forgiveness. That's what I am. Nothing else. There might look like I do lots of different things, but that's the core of what this is about for me. And I'm so, so grateful that because I've lived through so much of it, and for the last 10 years have intensely gone towards this awakening path through forgiveness, wholeheartedly, no other goals in my mind. No jobs of the world or relationships of the world, anything of the world. I went completely into it for 10 years. And so I feel very happy to be able to witness that it does work, and that the toughness of it, which it was very, 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 very tough, I have to say. It was not a cakewalk whatsoever. Many times I would feel like I was in the darkest, darkest, darkest of places. I think I cried for years, actually. Years. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do it that way. I was just kind of, Laverne and I joke, we were kind of tough nuts to crack, right? But we went into it, and we had a container to go into for that kind of letting go of this, the self-concepts and the beliefs. And so I do feel like there's this acceleration, and as the mind awakens, there's one mind awakening, the opportunities, you know, perhaps when you first started out on your spiritual path, there were like little things that would light up, like if it's the Course in Miracles or Buddhism or whatever, there would be like these things in your kind of in your dreamscape that would represent this truth, right? And the more and more that you go into it, the more they show up. It's the most amazing thing, isn't it? It's like the more and more you go into this authentic call of the heart for the love of God and for this experience of peace, the more these symbols start to show up. And then you get surrounded by these symbols of this peace. Now, they were always there, it's just that the focus was somewhere else. You know, it's like when you buy a new car and it's a whatever kind of model, and then you start seeing them everywhere. It's the same thing. It's where's the focus of the mind, right? And so it's really a good, honest question to ask yourselves, you know, really, truly, how much do I focus my mind on a deeper connection with this this thing called spirit? How much do I really yield into that? Or how much am I just in my autonomous zone, going about as a reactionary machine, programmed wrongly and badly since we were little? The programming is thick, so it's like how much of your time is spent in that. And then you don't really need to ask the question, why am I not happy? Because if you really get serious about this, and I will tell you right now, you have to get serious about it in order to ever have any feeling of consistency of peace in your life. It just won't happen. It's okay. It doesn't matter. There's no harm, no foul. It's just delay in time. There's no real delay, but in time it can sure seem like you know, oh my God, I'm still looping in this or this or this, you know. Why am I still looping? Why am I still pulling forth the same witnesses of guilt? Why am I still pulling forth witnesses of victimization? You know, it's because the deeper work has to happen in order for those things to disappear from your reality. And then you might see things that look like there's victimization going on, but you are completely in presence, so that if there's something for you to be a part of, to help with the call for love there, then you will be that. Because it's not about just sitting idly by. It's really being used by the Holy Spirit. It's really being so beautifully used, but there's no strain with it, because it's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is simply to accept the correction, which is the forgiven mind, and to allow all of these things that weigh on you. And that's usually how you can tell. If something is really deeply weighing on you, then there's a gift underneath it. There's always a gift underneath it. Every time, no matter how intense the situation might seem to be, if you really, really have this relationship with this divinity within, the light within, the Holy Spirit within, which is really just the part of your mind that remembers that you never separated. It's not some external entity, okay? It's really, truly the part of our minds that has never left its home. And so as we develop and nurture that relationship, it's really, truly the only relationship you need to nurture. You might think it's your children or your partner or, you know, your business or whatever, but no, focus on the kingdom of heaven and everything else will fall into line. There's this beautiful vertical alignment that happens. It's like as you focus on do only that, which is the forgiveness of any judgments that you might have, then this alignment starts to happen. And then all of a sudden, people start showing up. All of a sudden, people start changing. It's the weirdest thing. You think they changed. You changed. So it's this magnificent, holy, sacred power that we all have. You know, Jesus was a way shower, but he was saying that everything that he has done, we can do. I mean, that's pretty amazing. But you know, we do have to take the time. And there's a line in the Course that says something like, we don't think we're worthy of that kind of attention. You know, we want everybody else to give us the attention, but we're not giving ourselves the attention. It has to start right here. As soon as we think we want something from somebody else, we need to stop. We need to stop. You know, one of my family members used to say that whenever his kids would get all riled up and upset and this and that, him and his wife would just go in and pray and find out where it was within themselves that, you know, they really, really dropped in. They didn't go at it with the kids, you know. It's like, okay, where are we at? Where is my mind? Where's my mind energy right now? And so there's all types of ways to do this, and it's a beautiful practice to, well, it's actually a beautiful time to just take some time and sit with yourself and see where the self-love is, see where the self-care is, see where I'm meaning that time where you can really take an inner inventory of how much is it that I'm trying to get from outside of me? Whose attention am I trying to get? Whose acknowledgement am I trying to get? Whose love I'm trying to get? And I know that I was pretty deep into this for a while, and I realized I was so not focused still. It's so thick, you know, the mesmerization of duality, the mesmerization of there's me and there's you, and we have to work things out, you know, and the logical mind will never make it. The logical mind is there to serve. The logical mind is there to serve. And what I noticed happens is that eventually, as you really truly let go of thinking that you know anything at all or what's best for you, that you start to allow that to happen, then this alignment will just take you and everything will just beautifully, seamlessly work out. It's like The Secret, only, you know, the movie The Secret, only it's actually focused on God. It's not focused on material possessions or trying to manifest something. If we take that information and we go, okay, I'm going to take this is my relationship with God, because the Spirit needs nothing and gives everything, and in that giving it receives everything. It's a total reversal of thinking of this world. And when he says that, it's the truth. It is a total reversal of thinking. And that takes a lot of humility to lay down these ideas that you think you know anything. It just takes a lot of humility to say, you know, maybe I really don't know what's best in this situation, especially if you're hitting up against stuff and it's not flowing. If it's not flowing and it's not going, there's something there it wants to show you. There's some stuck part in the mind where it's not fluid, where you have to prove yourself, or you have to make something happen to prove that you're worthy. That's a huge one in our programming, is I have to do stuff to make myself be worthy. You know, I mean, I know for myself I felt this way, and I know many others that have gone more deeply, that's been in my realm of influence. It's like there's this deep unworthiness at the core. Like that it can't, that there's ones, including myself in the past, where I couldn't walk in a room. I could walk in a room and sit down and look like I had it all together, but I just felt nervous, or I felt anxious. Just some sort of subtle anxiety was always kind of there. And then I would try to overcoat it with just, you know, living life, really. Like, I don't know what this is. It just seems to It's been a partner of mine for a long time. Well, we don't have to live with that. We're much more worthy of divine peace and love and joy and happiness and effervescence. It's like this effervescence starts to arise. You know, my favorite line in the Course is the self, capital S, will tell you of yourself, capital S. As you practice forgiveness, as you let go of these illusions, as you stop focusing on the world and what's happening in the world, if that brings you whatever it brings you and you like it, then you will do that. That's fine. You know, it's you're actually doing nothing, which is what is nice too. Like, okay, there's nothing really bad happening here. I'm actually doing nothing for a minute. So, but there is this quickening. There's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful quickening happening. It's like the mind is waking. The mind is waking up. And so we have this beautiful opportunity together. And it feels like, you know, it's like you guys are the light beams here in this area. It's like this is so beautiful, and you know, we're all from different areas and different places, but here we are. And some of you live in community, some of you have mighty companions to work with, some of you are just coming into this type of relating, because it's no longer about being friends. It's really about holy relationship. And when you enter into holy relationship, you enter into really taking a deep look at yourself. And hopefully, like we always say, we hold hands during the bumpy parts. Because in that relationship, you have the opportunity to see that you could never mess it up. You never have messed anything up. You can never mess anything up. It's just that projection of unworthiness that stems from that, the inception of the tiny mad idea. That's all it ever is. If it doesn't feel harmonious, it's just a tiny mad idea showing up to be released, actually, so that we can remember. It's always this, as we allow this, whatever we're feeling to come up, we have to be in total allowance of what's happening, because we're so used to being told, you know, don't cry. No, you don't do this. No, you don't do. I mean, I think we all kind of perhaps grew up with unenlightened parents, but they did the best they could, right? And so here we are, and even all of that, you know, even all of that is just, it's just that projection of separation. And so it's going to play out from birth. Even the symbol of birth is separation. So it's from the get-go, it's playing out the tiny mad idea. This world is playing out the tiny mad idea, okay? We're not going to bring heaven to earth. If you are a Course in Miracles students, we are not going to bring heaven to earth. Now, do I feel like I walk in heaven? Absolutely. But I'm not out there trying to make the world into something that it is designed at its very core is separation. So there's a way we transcend the world. There's a way that we do not negate the world. It's not about negating the world. It's about taking your mind higher and higher and higher into this perspective so that you can look upon it with such love, with such presence, with such compassion, and that you will be used for the betterment of the whole always. You will become a blessing. This is what happens. This is not about negating the world, but it's also not holding it in a place that it's actually not. The world is within. It's a dream, no more important than the dream you had last night. Now that's pretty radical. But when you start to actually sit with this stuff and go, oh my gosh, okay. Well, Jesus says that he takes you through forgiveness, and then you're in the happy dream of remembering. The happy dream of true connection, the happy dream of really being used as a miracle worker, which could come in many, many different forms. You could be saving the whales, you could be doing whatever, but you're doing it out of this love. You're not doing it out of fear. You're not doing it out of something that is saying there's something wrong over there and I have to fix it. Because if you say there's something wrong over there and I have to fix it, then what you're doing is you're postponing your own healing, because that over there that you need to fix as an unhealed healer, that is where you want to go, because you don't want to deal with your own stuff, because it's so uncomfortable. And I will tell you, it is uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable to face this feeling of uncomfortableness. The tiny mad idea is not comfortable. It will never be comfortable. And so if we're identified with it, which for the most part we are, if we're identified with it, then we're going to feel uncomfortable. And that uncomfortability will come in a billion different ways. And it will just keep playing, and you might start to feel comfortable for a minute, and then boom, the next minute something else arises and you're not comfortable again. You know, it's almost like with the tiny mad idea. Say that you're identified with the tiny mad idea of Suzanne. She runs around and she tries to find comfort. She tries to find it in a relationship. She tries to find it in a job. She has to have a home to protect her. She has to have certain clothing to be accepted by society. She, just it goes on and on and on. So she runs around and runs around and runs around, and she tries to find this peace and this oh, can I just rest? Well, maybe I can rest when I have enough money in the bank. That'll be it. I can rest when I have enough money in the bank. And then you get enough money in the bank and you still can't rest. So that rest, that unrest that we feel at the core is that tiny mad idea. And that tiny mad idea is what we need to look upon and say, okay, yeah, wow, that doesn't feel comfortable. And then you start to allow that discomfort. Instead of trying to fix it, find things to fix it, find things to make it go away. There's nothing that will make that feeling go away consistently except for forgiveness. And that's pretty powerful. That's a pretty bold statement. But you know what? It's also very simple, and it's also like, oh my God, I can do that. That's up to me, right? That's not somebody telling me that, this, and this is the way it's gonna be for you. That's why you can sit in a jail cell and you can practice forgiveness and wake up. That's why it doesn't matter where you are or what situation you are in. Stop trying to get out of it and go into this on a very, very deep, very consistent, very compassionate way. It's like there's two thought systems and they run side by side. They do not meet. They do not cross. There's love and there's fear. And so what we do as fearful identification, we have to train ourselves to start to allow whatever those symptoms are to fall back into the love, like a child who's having a fit and falls into the arms of its mother. Like start to fall, because you're identified with the pain, start to open up to this reality, this vertical reality, which is the truth of who you are, and in fact that is what you are, and you're tempted to sleep in the horizontal. You're tempted, but the dream character is never going to wake up. It's going to run around and try to find peace and happiness and everything, but this is always awake. And so as we start to identify with this, then all that strain and stress and fear can fall back. And that's the remembering. The remembering is, oh, okay, I did this to myself by believing that the tiny mad idea actually happened. It's stranger than science fiction, but it works, right? It just totally, totally works. And that's why we were, with Alchemy of Awakening, we were a year ago really specifically told that there's these two major things, and that's the projection and the forgiveness. Because there's so many ways of looking at things in different ways, but if you can get that the projection is what is the cause of all upset in your life, and that it's happening because you're actually believing that you separated from your source. And so there's this power in that. For me, it was a game changer for me to actually see. It made it easier to forgive, because then I realized it was that tiny mad idea acting out. It was always acting out. And this is the thing about life seemingly on planet Earth is you can go about and you can handle one problem and it feels good for a minute, and then another one will come. It will be nonstop. There will always be problems if you're trying to solve them on the screen of the dream. But if you go inside and you really start to, wow, okay, this is a power. This is the most powerful thing. This is the key. This is a key to everything I ever thought I wanted. I thought I wanted that relationship. I thought I wanted that job. But no, what you really want is you want to feel connection. And all those things that you think those things are going to give you is what you already have and you already are. But while you think that they're still going to give you something, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to have that experience. And we're here to love. We're here to remember that we are love. We're here to, the forgotten song is such a beautiful part of the Course of Miracles. And I say now that we are in the part where we're remembering the song. And we're remembering our note, and we're remembering how to play with each other in that harmony. And it's so beautiful to be able to have, like-minded people around you, and to be able to start saying, hey, I really, really want to practice this on a deeper level. Now, I have no idea what you guys do. I mean, I really don't. I just am here to share my experience. Has been so helpful to have really committed relationships, because true intimacy is sharing with somebody what's in your mind, because it's not always pretty. And we have to get down to that. We have to get down to that area that we're ashamed of, that we're afraid that somebody might find out, and be able to share that, because what happens is it releases it. It releases it. And then all the good stuff is underneath that. It's like the conversation you don't want to have. Happiness is on the other side of that. Or even if it's a deep letting go, say it's too frightening to share something with another. Perhaps you don't have that trust level, so you just sit down with this invisible power that loves you, this invisible power that loves you more than you could ever know. That is you. That's just sitting there waiting for you to turn towards it and give it all of your misperceptions. To just sit down and just write out the darkest of the dark of whatever it is that you feel ashamed of, whatever, and write it out and just place it on the altar. I've done this so many times, and when that prayer is that pure, there's healing. When that prayer is that pure, there's healing. It's impossible for it not to be. But if you're still hanging on to a part of it and you don't really want to give it over, then you get mixed results. So we don't want to water this down anymore. It's time. I think we've all lived here long enough. We've all gone through the ups and downs of the ego. It's always the same. It's good for a minute, terrible for another, and it just goes back and forth. And so there's this opportunity here, I feel, and we have been feeling this, like there's this opportunity here in this area. It just feels so, I don't know, there's just something about it here that really lights us up. We really feel lit up about being here. And we weren't, we didn't know, we kind of knew 6-8 months ago we were going to be here and probably based here. And we will be doing retreats and we will be doing things here. But it's so beautiful to just kind of see that there's a welcome for this. There's a welcome to go even deeper. Because a lot of you have been practicing for a long time and you feel, that there is this expansion. But to just, there's no limit on this expansion. And in fact, I said the other day, I need to go out and have a glass of wine because I'm just too happy. I have to, I can't, if most people go out and have a drink because they're unhappy, I'm like, I need to settle down here, So everything's used. But it's a profound journey. And it's a profound journey inward to really discover the beauty that you are. I mean, you're just so beautiful. And we just have forgotten it. We've forgotten it on such a deep level. but we can remember. And the fact that we're just sitting here together, it's just a sign that this is the heart's intention on some level. You have to decide what level that is.
I was recently guided to get a Spanish tutor, and which was interesting in that I've lived in this area off and on for 5 years, and I took Spanish in college 2 years, and I have had a lot of, like, I guess you would call it training in Spanish, but it's sort of like when the rubber hit the road and I needed to use the Spanish, it wouldn't come out of my mouth. I mean, I felt like I had this whole repertoire of words in my head that are Spanish, but the piecing them together into a sentence, even a simple sentence just seemed to be like a block. And so, because we talked about living here in this area, I was like, I want to learn Spanish. I just want to learn Spanish. And so I heard get the tutor, and we're starting like from ground one, like buenos dias and como está. I mean, we're starting like at that level, and we're just like really starting at a basic level. And I just see the value of that, like starting with the beginner's mind. Like, for some reason the words aren't coming through and I need to speak in here, and I really want to be able to have a conversation or just whatever when I need it, the words to come out. And so what I'm really seeing is that what the problem has been all along is I've had this wealth of knowledge, that I haven't been able to use, and now I want to use it. And so there's a desire there that is basically guided me to this tutor, and I'm just really humbled by that, because I really want that ability to be able to have the words there when I need to use the words. And I really compare it to the spiritual journey that so many of us have been on. Like, we do have all of this knowledge about the metaphysics. Maybe we studied the Course for a long time. We've been on a non-dual pathway. And it's like, now it's time. It's like, don't wait until you think you're ready, or this is taken care of, or you get more knowledge, or this or that. It's like, no, and this is what my tutor tells me, no, go out and use it now. Use the word you're going to probably make 200 mistakes a day if you're out, just out in the town and talking to people and whatever. Like, even allowing that, like just being okay with that it's, because I think most of you that have been in this area know the people here just appreciate when you try, even if you don't have a whole lot of words to work with, and even if you make a mistake. So there's such a forgiveness, so there's such a welcoming attitude to that. And I just bring that all up because there is this thing about not even knowing how it is that our spiritual awakening journey should look. Like, okay, I don't know what makes me happy. I've made my best effort, what I think it looks like, a beautiful place, beautiful weather, this or that. And then you find out that it didn't make you happy, and you keep hitting that wall in the world when we make that decision about what we think it is that's going to make us happy, or even how this path is going to look. And I really think that just even for me recently, I'd shared with everybody last week that I'd felt this kind of thing about a spark about the store on Cologne Street that Jimmy started. And Jimmy, when he started it, really wanted to use it as a place for extension. People could come and share and shine, and there'd be books as a backdrop and coffee, and it was a beautiful idea. And he started it, and then the COVID thing hit, and then it closed down. So it's just been closed. It's just been closed. And now he wants to really go into a hermitage experience, and he's kind of in this lease. And we went and looked at the store, and it was just beautiful. Whoever has been involved with that, I mean, it's just a gem. It's so beautiful, and we can feel the heart that has been put into it already, and I really had felt that too. And so during this week, it's just been beautiful to see how different things have been orchestrated. People that, I'd love to do that, or I have something I would love to share or sell in there, or we could do this, or we could do that. And we're just like these people, I would just run into them, and even in sort of in between all of that, it was just like, if the ego got a hold of it, it's like, what are you thinking? You can't even speak Spanish, and you want to open a store? It's like that kind of really harsh words. And that's just the beginning. It's pretty harsh, when it comes in and really has a whole laundry list of reasons why this is a really stupid idea. And really, I'm telling you. And then yesterday I found myself on the Chapala bus going to Chapala, and for something I thought I was going to be doing, but didn't turn out, that I was to go to the city offices and get a business license. And nobody speaks a word of English in there. Not a lick. Okay, so
you had to
I'm in there. I'm having to speak what I know, what Spanish I know. I did a bit of Google Translate for some of the words of asking for what I needed. And so I just went in there and I got the application, and it wasn't easy. I mean, there was a few places where we weren't able to communicate. But then I got out of the building and I actually looked at the list of things that have to be done. You have to have an attorney. You have to get the tax number from Guadalajara. You have to, it's a list. And then I could feel that, like, I cannot do this. There's no way I can do this. I can hardly read the application. And I'm sitting out there by the fountain outside the city offices. I'm just like, okay, Spirit, if this is really what's meant to be, then you have to, I need someone to help me with this. I just don't know. And it just so happened that my tutor I was to meet him at 5:00, so I was heading back on the bus, and we sat down, and I says, I just need help with this, looking at this paperwork, and so he helped me to write down what it is that's needed on this application, and that was great, because then I could get a little bit of a sense of things, like what do we need to gather. And then I ran into you, Bonnie, and to get a hold of James so that we can sit down today and look at everything that he needs to get. It's really, I'm just sharing all this with you because we just only get a little tiny bit of maybe what's happening. We only get a little piece, and then a little piece, and so I really have to go back to that original feeling that I had about the store. I felt it. I really felt it. I felt the vibe of it. And when it starts really getting heavy like that, like, what am I going to do? I can't read this application. It's like, okay, then I ask for help, and then something comes in, and something comes in, and something comes in. And I just say that's how it works.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how it works. And it's even like, it's for all of us. It's like, where is it that we feel the spark? And watch how quickly the ego wants to come in and just shut it down. Yeah. You're not a rocket scientist. Why do you want to build rockets? What are you, crazy? That's really how it gets anymore. Like, we end up being called to do things that seem so massive.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that's really saying you can't do it is the ego. Because if we're not doing it, really, if we're just saying, okay, Holy Spirit, you got to show me how this is going to happen, then it isn't us that is doing it. And in that process of going in that direction, there's healing that happens. It just happens.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the process. And if mighty companions are by your side, then you can go to those ones who are with you and say, I'm really scared now because this application looks massive, and I just have all of the reasons in my mind to stop, don't go any further. But I do still feel it, and when I just stay in that direction, everything else is falling away. So I'm not interested in looking at the headlines, or I'm not interested in hoping that COVID's going to go away. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in that.
And that's the parting of the Red Sea right there. You are so focused on what you've been called to do that every obstacle will be removed. And even your prayer, like you sat out by the fountain and you said, I need somebody to help me. And you're going to your Spanish lesson. It's like, it's so obvious, right? But if it's guided, it's provided. If it's guided, it's provided. If there's too much, if you're going up against the stream too much, you might want to take another look at it. But obviously when you feel that spark and you go in that direction, and that's the convincing, you see. This is what happens when you start to get convinced that something loves you. Actually, something is working for you. It's for you. It's there. And it's the power that knows the best in every situation. So not only are you stepping deeper into your Spanish speaking, learning how to communicate, you're communicating more deeply with the vertical alignment with Spirit. That's what's taking you into this miraculous place,
And I just notice along the way too that I hear somebody's name, and so I just sort of go in that direction, and sometimes it's a yes, but other times it's like a no, and I just I can. It's like that's okay, that's okay, and it's just like the water going around
fine-tuning,
in the stream. It's just okay, and maybe that later on that person's gonna say
absolutely.
yes. But if the fear level's so high, the Spirit really can't really do anything with that. But it is also too remembering that the Spirit would never give us more than we can handle. It would just never be that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you're hearing some really inspired idea in your mind and it sounds so crazy, but it's like just taking that next step and the next step and the next step in that direction.
Like because you came to me and you said, I don't even want to say this. That's what she said. I don't even want to say this about the store. And I'm like, oh, wow, that feels pretty good, yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's a symbol for us. It's a symbol of extension. It's a symbol of ways that we could all work more deeply together. It's a symbol of joining and communication and just a light on Cologne, like a real big light of love. And in fact, we're kicking around the name blessings, because when you come in, there will be a blessing. Everybody that comes in gets a blessing, right? In a cool way. Well,
and it is seeing too that, the Course talks about it like it's a development of trust. It's like a development. So, we don't just leap into heaven because we just totally want to. We have to be convinced by the Spirit that we can trust. So how do you trust? You do something that you're not really totally comfortable with. You're just okay. You're gonna have, and then I get the convincing. The convincing happens in that process of just going in that direction of that.
Yeah, you can feel your knees shaking, but your heart is like aching to go in a certain direction, and this is where that deep prayer takes you right through it every time.
And I can just say, because maybe some of you experience this, even speaking Spanish, like on the street, how sometimes that feels really hard. I can really feel I don't want to say the words of asking for something or whatever, having a conversation, but it's like even just going through that, and just saying the words, even if maybe they're totally wrong.
Yeah, the thing about adult learners, and I learned this when I was into horses, kids, they're just like, they make mistakes, they fall down, they get up, they're enthused, right? But adult learners have a really difficult time because they feel this kind of humiliation or wrongness. It's more in their awareness. So we need to undo all that and just come back into our sandbox together, and really be as little children. And those signs and symbols are around everywhere. I'm writing a series of children's book. We're in this huge thing with a metaphysical children's project. I never had kids. I never even wanted kids. I never read children's books. I read horse books, but not, and I'm like, what? So we're holding hands through that, but it seems like there's a lot of creativity here that wants to come through too during this purification, and the purification just takes us deeper into this experience. So the ego's world, there's a ceiling on the experience of pseudo happiness. In the spirit's world, there's no limit, because everything is preparing us to fall back into that complete abstract light of love. And that's the way we're doing it here. It's just this step by step, whatever is occurring, let's just deal with it, hold hands. There's a lot of power here. there's a lot of power, a lot of beauty, yeah, a lot of beauty here.
So we're taking an art class, the three of us end up at the same place, right? And that was kind of cool. I was right beside you. And what I'm learning is that it's reflecting that when I'm painting, I want it to look like real color of skin, or the real color of this, or and then it occurs to me, I don't have to do that. You can just let it flow and let it bring in whatever color comes. And that's what he particularly teaches, is just let the color come. So it's really showing how if you let whatever comes to you all the time,
let it come, it's
going to reflect outward, you know. And so even everything is there to teach us, right? So this is pretty amazing that I was seeing that as you were talking. The colors were just coming at me, and I'm going, wow, it doesn't have to be the color of that wood. It could be blue.
Please,
it doesn't have to be brown, because wood is brown, or whatever. So it's like
that's beautiful.
Nothing has to be.
If once you decide that healing is your one goal, then everything is used for healing. Art class is used for healing and expansion. Everything, you start to give the meaning of the Spirit to everything, then everything is there to help you to expand more deeply into this awareness of who you are in truth, which is love, which is joy. And so I feel like that's the opportunity that we feel, and even just with ideas that any of you might have, or things that you might want to share, you know, just pick up the phone and call whoever you're feeling to call. You may not even know why, you know, but, you know, this is how we start really forming this kind of telepathic, you know, being guided, and you don't have to know why. In fact, it's best not to know why. Just do it. And then you see that your inner listening is starting to be more of an attractant to you than your logical mind. Because the logic will shut you down in a lot of ways. It'll talk you out of happiness, actually. So I hope that we all just really come together more and more in this, just this expansion, and to hold hands during the bumpy parts. And if you have a grievance with somebody, then, you know, you cannot experience true happiness with grievances in your mind. You can't. And you can't skip the step. You have to go towards that grievance. Okay? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you go towards that person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't. That's where you let the Spirit give you the direction of what you need in that moment. We touched on this last week, which I thought was really, which was really helpful, is that you don't make up your decision how you're going to heal. Don't you make up your decision how you're going to heal. You'll feel it. You'll feel a spark with it. Like, people are coming to our retreat in Peru. It's like they all felt this, like, oh yeah, I got to be there. Now, what a strange time to make arrangements to go to Peru, right? But it's full, and it's like everybody, and I just wrote a letter basically about parting the Red Sea, and keep your mind off from that which does not support that parting of the Red Sea. I've been called to Peru. I'm going to Peru. The flight will open. Whatever needs to happen will happen. And to think like that, instead of always looking at the headlines and trying to figure out whether the world's going to tell you you're going to Peru or not. The world cannot tell you what you are. We are powerful beyond measure. So let's just get deeper and deeper and deeper in touch with that power. So thank you. Thank you all for coming. And we don't really sit around and discuss things here. This isn't where we do that. So there can be other places for that, but we just kind of listen to the message and then bask in that message and take it in. Okay? So, but I think that there's going to be more stuff coming, like where we can do whatever the Spirit feels will love us up and take care of us.
I think so too. There'll be a lot of help in the community.
Oh yeah.
Naturally flowing your way.
Yeah.
I happen to know some people that would.
So someone asked, "What are you going to sell in there?" I'm like, blank.
Yeah, and you know what came through about that was the simplicity of consignment. That let's see what people's creative aspects are flowing, and just it doesn't need to be difficult for us to do this, and it won't be, otherwise we won't do it. I mean, it's not about trying to make something happen. It's about following an inspiration, and you can see it in your face.
Yeah,
It's like she's just aglow. It's beautiful. So yeah, I like to to trade in some of the things that you normally do for perhaps some things that might have more purpose and more, upliftment of the mind, because that's what happens. You start seeing that you're involved in things that support your awakening instead of support the sleeping. You want to always choose to support the awakening. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to 11:11. I don't know what that means, but sounds good.